episode of Generation Dan. I am Dino the Genetic Marvel. Today we are missing Nicholas Fernandez, so you won't have some young, wet behind the ears attitude or opinion for what we're going to talk about. But with me is
Atlas Novak. And what do you mean attitude? No attitude.
He's young. He's a young whippersnapper, and he's got a chip on his shoulder. He doesn't know what real sadness is. You know.
I've got a chip on my shoulder and what appears to be mustard on my shirt. So.
All right, fun times.
Yeah.
So,
no Nick?
Yeah, so Nick's not here. Nick is on. Okay, we were talking about this earlier, and so Nick is coming home from a cottage that he went to for a week. Now, we are currently recording this, and it is a Sunday afternoon, early evening, I guess.
The Lord's Day.
Where we are. What?
The Lord's Day, like in an Irish accent.
He's drinking from a bottle, like right up to the lips, and he's like, "The Lord's Day."
It's a bottle of Coke. Relax.
It's a bottle of Coke because he can't handle it up his nose. He just drinks it. No. Okay, so we were saying though. So a lot of people, especially during the summertime, I know in Canada this is the thing: is Friday they'll take a half day and go up to the cottage, stay for Saturday, and then Sunday try and come home as late as possible to maximize the enjoyment of the few weekend, days off that we have.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I will not go to a cottage those hours. I'm like, I will never come back on a Sunday because that's just traffic is horrendous, and I would never leave on a Friday afternoon because again, traffic is horrendous and it just ruins the whole experience. But I was gonna ask, like, is that the same way in California? I feel like everyone feels like they're on vacation all the time, but isn't. But they act like they try and act like that. That's what we see on TV?
Yeah, well, because people go, oh, it's like La La Land, and people break out into song on the 405. It's not. California is a vacation, but that part of the vacation where you're like stuck in the airport and you've been laid over 3 times. And
I can understand that.
Yeah, and like you're supposed to be on vacation, or that's what people think, but at this point it's just work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. See, that's because like in Canada, the problem is like if I want to go to Montreal, it's going to cost me a few $100s, right? Mm-hmm. Or it's going to cost me it's going to take me 5 hours to drive. Whereas in the States, it's like it's fairly close by, and you guys do have cheap airfare, cheaper airfare than we have in Canada. So. I always think, and I'm like, it'd be fun just to like pop out and be like, all right, I'm gonna go 2 states over and check things out.
Yeah, know? I mean, well, I think it also depends on the size of the state. Like the East Coast, you can do that a lot easier to go,
True.
Down to the shore, from New York or whatever. Whereas in California, it's like 2/3 of the coast. So if you want to go to Oregon or Washington, like you're SOL. Like it's 5 hours to go from LA to Mammoth, which is like the big ski spot for SoCal.
Okay.
So that's 5 hours going one way.
Yeah.
And that's like near Nevada. Excuse me.
Interesting. Could you take a short flight instead or no?
Yeah.
Or no?
They didn't for a long time, but around the time I was like 15, 16, they started offering flights for like, I don't know, 50 minutes or something. It's short. Yeah. That's
I always like that idea because even in Europe, there's a lot of cheap travel that's not very bad. Like for me, I'm a big guy, so sitting on a plane. Like I'm Greek, so I go to Greece, and it's usually like an 11 to 13 hour flight if you go straight, and it's a lot. It's pretty rough,
I don't know. I think for taking a flight, I would rather have the long one than you sit down, get settled, okay, you're done. You're like, fuck.
Having a stop, like where you come down and go back up again, where you have stopovers, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, those are a pain. But if it's just one long flight, from like LA to New York or whatever, and that's 5 hours, but that's still enough time to like sit down and just take a nap or something. But like I went to visit my friend in Oregon, and it was like an hour and 10 minutes. By the time I fell asleep, we were there.
Yeah, it's a weird. And that's the thing is, air travel is weird that way. Is like because there's a lot of anticipation and adrenaline. Like when you're taking off, you're like, it's a scary thing to go through, right? Like just in general. But I feel like you don't really realize, and it's like, okay, I finally kind of came down from that, the adrenaline rush of taking off, and now I'm in the goddamn air. Before you, okay, I can rest for a little bit, and we're coming down. Oh, okay, we're coming down to my death. No problem.
I don't know. I don't think I'm afraid of air travel at all. Because like when I was a kid, it was exciting, right? You're like, oh my god, we're flying, and then
yeah,
by the time like you take enough, and then by the time you're an adult, you're like, okay, get in the tube. Wait, okay, we're in the air. I can open my electronic devices, and I am free to walk about the cabin now.
You know what? Like, I'm not afraid of flying or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more afraid of the entire process, just the security, the paperwork, making sure everything's in order, and then on top of that is the fact is, like, planes are meant to withstand and to be able to have a hard landing and be okay and stuff like that, but there are malfunctions, and so it's like every time you fly, it is a concern, right? But you're like, you know what, everything's fine. It's just, and I'm very much a creature of habit. So when the same things happen, like, oh, just turbulence, it feels like turbulence I've had before. In my mind, I'm like, okay, this is normal stuff. It's when new things happen that I'm like, oh, this might be it. It's kind of, all right, well, good luck. You know?
It always bothered me when they were like, folks, we're going to have some turbulence coming up. And I was like, what do you mean? If you know, why are you telling us? I thought turbulence was supposed to be random. I thought it was like, oh, that shook the plane a little bit. Not, it's over there, I'm just not going to avoid it. That doesn't make any sense. That would be like, all right, I see 10 potholes coming up, and we're just going to run them. It doesn't make any sense to me.
That is a fair point, and I'm embarrassed that I have no idea. I don't really know. I believe it's just that they can't change their path, because that's
right.
the appropriate path. But because this is the thing, is like the whole process of flying, like, is like, it's insane. I have a close friend who became a pilot, and even when she was in training and everything, like, people are like, you're the pilot, because she was a woman, and people were like, oh, I don't want to fly on this plane. Like, no way. Like, people are crazy about that.
Those are the same people who like played Metroid for the first time, and they're like, wait, Samus is a girl? Ah! Generations.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and that's. But it's very, very funny. But I've asked her questions. She's like, yeah, all of the sensors and controls and everything are there so that you can see without your eyes, right? Like, that's the idea behind it all. So she goes, yeah, when, sometimes you can't see, and I'm like, that is terrifying.
That is terrifying.
So we can't really see right now, but everything says okay, so we're gonna be fine. And then it starts to shake, and they're like, well,
yeah, sorry about that. I didn't know it was coming. Meh.
Yeah, that's, like, I love, because my wife was born in the UK. She was born in London, and her and her parents came to Canada after a few years. I think she was around 9 or 10 years old. So she still has friends over there. So now when we go back, we'll go London, stay for a couple days, and then on to Greece, because it's actually works out to be cheaper. But also London is very expensive.
Yeah.
So it's like staying for a little bit. You're like, and that's all the money we've spent for London. So let's go to Greece, and I have a house. I'm like, I don't want to have to pay for a hotel anymore. It's just too much damn money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I love watching when you're flying. They'll have a map on one of the channels for the TV that'll be just where the plane is, progress-wise, flying over the ocean, and it's cool, but also absolutely terrifying, because you can watch where you're at the point of, like, okay, we are the farthest we will be from land, period.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, it's like, whew, all right, so.
What, like the middle of the Atlantic? You're like, well, I hope shit doesn't fuck up now.
Yeah, like, yeah, so it's kind of exhilarating, but at the same time, it's like, it's when you don't want to know, but you're like, well, it's there, I gotta know. I want to know what's the peak danger time for when this flight is going.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's flying is I have a healthy respect for it.
I just imagine you like you're in the exact middle of the Atlantic, and then the guy in the seat next to you is watching you. Just sit right back, and you'll hear a tail. Fuck! No! Shut it off! I don't want to hear about getting stranded on an island.
And also, too, like, listen, I am not equipped to be stranded anywhere. Like, that is not gonna go well. I'm like, this is, like, I have I do a bit about it in my comedy where I'm like, I love to travel, but the people that are on the same plane as me do not like that I travel because, like, I tell you, I fill that seat up real nice and tight.
Are you one of those people who, like, just radiates heat off of them?
No, I'm pretty good about that, but like, all essentially, like, I can buckle a seatbelt without like an extension or anything.
Yeah.
So, but then it's like once I like thunk into that seat, I'm not moving anywhere. Like,
yeah,
I will just wait, right? And on top of that, like, I smoke, so flight I remember Victoria and I went to Hong Kong once, and I found these cheap tickets to Hong Kong where we went from Toronto to Chicago, from Chicago to Hong Kong, and we ended up that the flight in total in areas where I could not smoke was about 22 hours. And Victoria's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine, no problem." And I'm like patient the whole time, and I'm like, I was actively like just saying, "No, just stay calm." But I'm like, "Do you want something to eat?" I'm like, "I'm okay." Because I know, like, after I eat, I want to smoke, right? So I'm like, no, I'll just not having anything, not drinking, not anything. But then, like, we get out of the airport, and I have 2 cigarettes going at the same time. I'm like, right? Yeah. But
we better not be doing this show in, like, 3 years, and you're like, welcome to Generation Dan. Just fucking quit it already.
Well, that's the thing is, like, I used to smoke like a pack and a half a day. But now I smoke like maybe half a pack a day. Like, it's just not, I just don't smoke as much, right? Like, it's weird now. And drinking, I don't drink it like ever anymore, which I'm just, because I never drank at home. Like, that was never a thing.
Yeah.
That's why.
I don't really drink all that much anymore either, because of how my meds work, where I am a total lightweight now.
Oh yeah.
Because of just like Jesus Christ, the medication is like partially a blood thinner, so
okay.
Yeah. So like my girlfriend will be like 3 things in, and I'll have like half a thing. I'm like, so how are you doing today? Like, just I look like I cannot handle my sauce, which I technically can't, but also save money, live better.
Yeah. Hey,
Hennessy.
that's not bad. That's not a bad plan, right?
We so a friend of mine had a murder mystery dinner for their birthday yesterday.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend and I were invited. And the entire time we like tried to get into character. It's like a 1930s like Murder on the Orient Express type thing. And my character is like a New York Times reporter who's an undercover agent for the OSS. She's an Austrian socialite. And the entire time I was so sloshed by like round 2 of like questions and things like that that I just fucking demolished the fourth wall. Because I would just pick apart people's like, they're like, you're encouraged to ad-lib and things, and then someone goes something World War II, and I was like, what do you mean World War II? It's 1930. We've only had one. What? Just my girlfriend's like, shut up.
You know what? That I saw you posted that, and I was like, ooh, I can't wait to talk about that.
I don't know, like my. People thought it was funny, but it was just the kind of thing where I was basically comic book guy, but with historical facts. Like, obviously, it was 1939 that the beginning of World War II commenced with the invasion of Warsaw. And let's just, Jesus Christ.
You know what? I've been that guy. I have been, and
Mm-hmm.
you know what? It can be fun. It can be fun. Sometimes I find is if you are in actually a funny person, it will normally be funny because people are like, nah, it's pretty funny. It's
Yeah.
true, right? But if you're not a funny guy, so if you're an asshole and start doing that,
Mm-hmm.
it really goes to 100 real quick, and people have a bad time. Like, because yeah, if you're a dick, it just turns so.
I feel like I'm right on that line a couple of times. Like I can easily cross the line into dick, easy.
Yeah, so it's yeah. I remember we were at a friend's house, and uh, this guy we had a party a while ago, and I threw up,
Okay.
and it was many years ago. But he found a picture of me on Facebook that was not it didn't look very trustworthy. Let's just say that it did not make me exude trust. And
Okay.
he put it into a frame, and it said "watch list" underneath it, and hung it in the bathroom.
Oh my
And I'm
god.
like, screw you, man. And he's like, ha 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 ha. Now, fast forward, I've drinking an entire bottle of sake, and I'm good. I have a decent little buzz going, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no problem, because Victoria's gonna drive home. She doesn't drink. And then that same buddy gave me some very strong weed, and I did not know where I was for like 3 hours. And it
Oh.
was like right at the end of the party. So I was like in the bathroom, curled up. I had Ralphed everything. And I was responsible. Like everything went in the toilet, but it was like, it's just not a good situation. So I come out like 3 hours later, and it's my buddy, his wife, and Victoria watching a Halloween movie that has been on like rerun all day on the same channel.
Yeah.
And they're like, you good? And I'm like, I need to sleep because I have no idea where I am right now. True. Nice. And I'm like, well, it's not my fault, technically. The host gave me weed and it was too strong. So he should be more responsible with his party favors, I think. That was.
So it was like a reverse of that Seinfeld episode where Jerry and Elaine get left at that party.
Yeah. It was pretty much, yeah. It was, yeah.
It would be like Elaine's in the bathroom throwing up, and Kramer's like, "We going or what?"
Like, listen, that's, yeah. And the funny thing is, everyone had already left for like 2 hours already.
Yeah.
It's just my wife and them just waiting for me in the bathroom.
Like,
And I'm like,
gonna fucking finish or what? God damn!
listen, and the worst part is, like, I'm a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like anyone could be like, all right, you know what, just pick him up and drag him into the car. It's like, nope, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to leave him there for a while. And they did offer my wife, they're like, listen, he could just crash here and you can come pick him tomorrow. And Victoria was like, no, I'll just wait. I know, I'm sorry to inconvenience you guys. And they're like, that's no problem. But I am still friends with those people. So,
What do you think would have happened if your wife did leave you there? Like, especially because you didn't know where you are. They walk in, you're passed on the floor, they just throw a blanket on top of you, go to bed. Like,
yeah, and I would have totally. I would have been like, I would have woke up in the morning and made them eggs because I'd be like, yeah, I know, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
how do you take your eggs in general?
So I am a fan of a soft-boiled egg,
Oh,
but soft-boiled egg is a pain in the ass to make, and people get mad at it. And the thing is, normally I'd like a sunny side egg, but the problem is, sunny side egg, the top isn't cooked properly. So I have to get over easy because I like a runny yolk.
got it.
What about you?
I'm a fan of the classic scrambled. I do like hard boiled eggs too. What I'll do usually before, like trading card game regionals, I will make a bunch of hard boiled eggs and then take them with me because usually there's
And not
no
food
place to
days.
get food. Yeah, so you just like eat one in between rounds and it like keeps your energy going.
That's actually genius and very responsible, but at the same time, yeah, I couldn't do that because I will not shit for days if I was eating with hard-boiled eggs.
Oh, you'd fart for days.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would clean out that whole room. I would just be like, and it would just be like, oh, no way.
The trick when you have gas is to fart near someone with a baby, and then walk away. And then if they check the diaper, then you've succeeded. That's the best way to do it, I think.
That is so. This is the thing is like the haphazard way that people just stop acknowledging smells and things when a baby is involved is very funny in general. It's like, they're just they have to go to the bathroom, and you're just like, yeah, it still smells like shit. It's disgusting.
Like, well, because it's the kind of thing where even if you like blame it on the baby's like, I just figured out the number 4 yesterday. I don't really care.
That's the best.
But with scrambled eggs, I figured out how to do it where, like, as a kid, my mom would always do it on, like, low heat, and it would take a long time, and they always came out with, like, this weird brown on them just from, like, overcooking them, and it's gross. What you should do is...
Hold on.
What?
I'm 100% on board with you right now. 100%. My wife does the same things right now, and I'm like, I don't want your scrambled eggs because they're nasty.
Yeah. I'm better at this than you are. Like, it's the one cooking thing that I can beat you at, so.
Fair. So, what is your technique? What are you doing?
So, you put a little bit of milk in the eggs while you're, like, whisking them before you put them in.
Yeah.
Super high heat and for, like, really short. Like, beat the shit out of them, and they're, like, all fluffy, and they're not brown. It should not be this hard.
It's like realistically, it's the same like the ripeness of a banana or an avocado. Yeah. Like it's got a very very small sweet spot. But I do the same. So with my scrambled eggs, is I will add some milk if I can, like half or some cream is also really good.
Also good.
And then some salt and pepper. But I'm really good at whisking with just a fork. Like I'll actually get a little aeration in there too.
Yeah.
And same, just boom, right in there, let it go. If it browns, that's done. It's you fucked it. As soon as it goes brown, it's fucked.
You messed up. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. It's got to be still yellow and fluffy, like it's just firmed up, and you take it off. You're done.
Yeah, because it keeps cooking afterward.
It keeps cooking. Yeah. It's like steak, which is weird, but it actually is valid.
It's one of those things where, like, I want this to look like shitty motel continental breakfast. That's when you know you've succeeded. You know,
that's the thing is the taste is wrong, but the color and like the squish is just right. Okay, they don't taste good, but they are perfect in those fashions.
Yeah, for sure. Like growing up, we didn't do bacon for the most part. My mom is a Santa Monica hippie, so it's like turkey bacon. It's better for you. So like. I like turkey bacon now better than I do just regular bacon.
But is it like good quality turkey bacon? Like I don't know how to qualify that, but like I've had turkey bacon, I was like no. But then I've had turkey bacon and go, oh okay, that's not bad.
It's
it's
like Whole Foods.
Do you have a special brand or producer that you go to, or?
I think it's the one thing I actually still go to Whole Foods for. Because I can't afford to shop at Whole Foods, but like the turkey bacon is kind of worth it.
Yeah. Do they have their own? Is it their own that they make, or?
Yeah, or just like the in-house whatever. Like it's Whole Foods turkey bacon. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. No, because like that's the thing is especially fowl is very subjective to how it's fed, how it's raised, how all that kind of stuff. Like there's a huge difference. I remember
fowl with a W, I assume, not like a murder most fowl, right? Okay, good.
But I meant like duck and chicken and turkey and
birds.
All those.
Yeah,
birds or fowl.
This is more for the person who's listening who's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm just doing the dishes. Oh, and hi, Professor. I found out that an old professor of mine from college listens to this show, which is crazy to me. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what? I am, I don't like knowing who's listening, but I'm like, I really like it when people listen. Mm-hmm. It's weird. I'm an idiot that way.
I just imagine you putting up like flyers for a thing, and you're like, "Hey, come check us out," or don't, whatever. You don't have to. It's fine if you don't want to, but it would be cool if you did. But
You know, but it's cool if you don't. Like, it's cool if you have plans. You know, I understand that. I respect that. I respect it. Yeah, I actually just shared. I was on a trivia talk show type thing, and I just shared it, and I was just like, "Oh, this is happening right now. Tune in to laugh with or at. I'm okay with either."
Yeah.
I'm like, that's yeah. And then it proceeded to not go well in my favor, but you know, I recovered it. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
That was one thing I wanted to ask you about was that. How are you finding going back on stage and stuff? Like, is it comfortable?
No, I'm having trouble with it. I think.
Yeah.
I think it's because I developed this awful habit of being so used to being able to read my notes.
True. Yeah.
Where before, if I missed a tag or whatever, it's fine. Set one fine. It's not a big deal. But now I with Zoom shows, I got so used to wanting that there, and like I would do this thing where I'd stand far enough back and have the notes on the screen, so it looked like I'm looking at the camera, but I'm looking at the notes.
Yeah.
And it's just turned into this thing where like I have to rid myself of that god awful habit because my confidence is shot where I'm like, oh god, the notes aren't here.
Yeah. I feel you.
How about you?
Well, that's the thing is, so we haven't done any. I haven't done any live shows. My wife got the vaccine. Mm-hmm. She got a second. So like how Nick was, like she got Pfizer the first time, Moderna the second, which I'm like, that's
not good. Yeah.
See, and this is so, and he was like, oh, you know, it's they're both mRNA based, and I'm like, that doesn't mean fuck all. Like. And people are just like, yeah, it's okay. And then, so there was an article.
You and Nick are both comics from Canada.
Yeah.
Does that make you the same person? Fuck no.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, there was an article that was saying how a couple had to cancel their honeymoon to Barbados because Barbados does not recognize people who have gotten multiple brand vaccinations.
Oh.
And so everyone kind of was like, what? What's going on? You can't. We got the second vaccine to be okay. You said it was okay, and now other countries aren't accepting it. And then all of a sudden, Barbados is like, "Oh no, it's okay, No, we'll accept it. Okay. And you're going, that's one more reason I don't want to get this damn thing. Like I just want a minute of clarity from anyone, just a definitive, hey, this is the truth of everything. And go, you know? But instead it's just everything's so backwards. It's very frustrating.
I think, like, I don't know, at least in the US, like, Dr. Fauci's been pretty good about it. Because he was like, don't mix your things. Get the two. Like, if you got Pfizer, get Pfizer again. If you got Moderna, get Moderna again.
Yeah. Well, you guys actually have a supply.
That's true.
Yeah.
My mom had a run-in with an anti-vaxxer.
Oh, really?
This last week. I was talking to her today, and she hired an electrician for whatever thing. I think it was her tenant. And the guy shows up in a mask, and she's like, you know, you can take it off if you're vaccinated. And he's like, oh, I'm not vaccinated. And she goes, well, okay, why? It's available to everybody. And he goes, I just want to make sure there are no ill effects. And I'm like, it's been 6 months. Nothing's happened to me.
Listen, so, yeah, okay.
That's, like, arguably the best reason to be paranoid about not getting it, but, like...
This is the thing, okay? And now hear me out, okay? And I am pro-vaccination. Like, I'm not anti-vaccination, but I am also, like... I read, I listen, and I stand there going, listen, I don't have to make a decision. Like, that was one of the things, I'm not sure if you were there, I was talking, somebody asked for advice, and I was like, you know what, all feedback does not require comment. Like, people can tell you something, and you don't have to chime in, you don't have to, and like right there, if the guy was like, I'm not vaccinated, you'd be like, okay, leave your mask on then. That's the end of, like, there's no reason for that interaction, and which is number one for me. Because I don't think it's anyone's business, right? Like, in that fashion. And me, like, I have no problem wearing a mask till the fucking dawn of time. I don't care, you know? If that's what I have to do, okay, that's fine. It's no big deal. But at the same time, like, oh, well, I'm vaccinated. I still don't want you close to my face. Sorry. It's not interested, right? So it's, and like,
That's just kind of who my mom is, though. She's just the like always always has to have her finger in every pie, which is why I don't really tell her a lot about what's going on outside of the super surface level stuff. So
Same
like,
here. Yeah.
give her something to chew on, but not anything where it like she can make
something
you feel
resolved. I find like something that's already been resolved. You let her chew on it because she'll come back to you, be like, you know what, I was thinking you should do this, and you're like, that's a great point. It's already happened.
Yeah, that's kind of like yeah. There was this Spanish spy during World War II named codenamed Garbo, and he hated the Nazis, but he pretended to be a Nazi spy, and he was like working for the Allies, and he would give the Nazis info that was like just too late to be useful,
Yeah.
So he got both the Medal of Honor and the Iron Cross from both sides. So basically, you're just doing what Garbo does, where you're just like, here's the thing. It's already done. Like, you can say whatever you want, but it's done. So
yeah. Well, I that's like, this is the one thing I think that I'm realizing the most is that I don't number one have to support everyone's specific opinion. Yeah. I can be selective in that, and at the same time, I don't have to chime in. Just because this is not my circus, not my monkeys. I do not have to get involved, and that's why I'm like, at this point in the game, what I was originally bringing up about stage time is that like I'm doing fewer comedy sets online, but I'm doing more podcasts and talk shows online, and I'm finding those easier just to maintain a conversation, drop in some funny bits, and different angles on topics and stuff, and I'm like, I'm enjoying it, but at the same time, I'm like, well, but that's not really comedy. It's comedic, but not, I don't know.
It's not stand up, but it's probably closer to improv than anything else.
Which makes me want to vomit.
Me too. Yeah. I have a weird, not vendetta against improv comics, but as I always say, improv is yes and, stand-up is no and here's why.
That's fair. And I get that.
Yeah. Who I do hate, though, are poets. Definitely. Because just when I was just starting out, this, like I said before in the show, I was 17, can't go to bar shows, can't, go to anywhere that serves alcohol, so I went to a lot of, coffee shop open mics and mixed open mics and stuff like that, and poets were always the most annoying. Not only would they suck all the energy out of the room, but that's the point, right? Where they're just to make you think. But also, they would run the light every single goddamn time. And you want to hit them with a frying pan.
This is... Oh, yeah.
It's like... Poetry and comedy are kind of like opposing forces. To an extent. Some of it, anyway.
Listen, I'm on a very specific side of that conversation, so I don't think it's fair for me to be accusatory. But I also feel that a lot of people that are poets think they're hilarious, which I'm like, no, you're not. It's the same thing. I saw a comedian earlier today on a show that was like, "Ha, we should be respecting women. It's 2021. Ha," and you're like, okay, I agree with that. And he's like, yeah, I blew your mind. And you're like, no. And he's like, yeah, I'm hilarious. And you're like, definitely not. That is not how that works. That's the same thing where it's that weird place between art and not comedy, right? Comedy is an art form. That's actually one of the things that's being we're trying to put through in Canada is comedy being recognized as an art form, because it's not.
I didn't know it wasn't. I wonder if that's a thing in the States.
Oh no, in the States it's definitely a thing, because as an entertainer to come to Canada from the States is extremely easy. It's one little form. I think you have to pay a fee of $30 or something, and boom, you're done. Because it's for a specific job, you're a comedian, it's recognized. There's been that legislation between countries to say, oh, it's okay. Whereas for me to come to comedy in the U.S., I actually have to get a work visa, and like it's a whole big thing, and it's quite cost intense as well. So it's like who? You know?
Say, do you got a guest room that I could stay in?
Absolutely, we're building it right now. It's it's an outside storage thing, and I'm like, I think we could turn it into a hot tub. My wife is like, what? I'm like, yeah.
And then it turns out to be like one of those suicide booths from Futurama, and then I'd come over and you just kill me.
I'd be in there too. All right, we're getting a twofer. Just throw it in the corner and pull it back out.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, no, it's weird that way, but that's one of the things. I'm like, some people are like, well, I'm edgy, and you're like, you're just being an asshole. Like it's not fun. Like it can be funny, but you're not being funny.
Yeah.
You know.
Or even worse, are the people who start bombing, and then they're like, what is this cancel culture? I'm like, I don't think that works if you were never on air to begin with. You were just that's just not getting the pilot picked up. That's
look. This is the thing is I'm okay. I don't think we are out of the woods at this point. I know why everyone's been like, oh, so many people are vaccinated, everything's gonna be fine, and we can spit in each other's mouths again. And I'm like, I don't think we're even. I think we're maybe halfway there, maybe even, 5/8 of the way. But I don't think we're at the end of this, and that's number one is terrifying.
Well, because we're starting to see cases go up now.
So. I know, and that's when they're like, oh, there's the Delta variant, and you're like, shut up with your variants. How about that, you bastards? Like, just remember, originally it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. That was the thing, and you're like, number one, baloney. Number two, what are you guys doing, right? And that's why I'm like, for me, there's no rush where it's like, if you don't get vaccinated right now, you're gonna lose everything. It's like, nah, I'm okay.
This is what it should have been. It should have been, all right, we're staying inside for a month. We will pay your rent and your employer, pay your time off, whatever, enough to get you through the thing. And I think that's why it didn't work. Why people were like, no, I have to go out. It's because that economic anxiety of I have to constantly be hustling or whatever. And especially in the U.S., I'm not sure how the social safety net was in Canada, but
it was actually very good and still screwed. So this is the thing was,
interesting.
We had a benefit that was going. They would deposit money to your account every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to call and submit, and they would just approve it.
Okay.
But then things started, and so about 5 or 6 months into that, then they're like, well, we're not sure if we can keep this going, and it's extended to this point, and it was till I want to say October, November, it was extended to, and then they're like, well, you can no longer call in, you have to use the web service, and I was like, I don't have access to that, so I was like, okay, fine, forget it. But the weird thing was, at the end of that, then you started hearing these weird cases of, they're starting to get collection calls where it's like, you shouldn't have got the money, you don't qualify, and weird stuff like that's been happening. Mm-hmm. So it kind of went to crap, and everyone was like, well, if I can't trust you guys, then the same thing that came up with in the States where people were going, oh, well, you shouldn't be making more off unemployment than you should at a job. And you're like, do you hear what that says? Like,
yeah.
That, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. Yes, you're absolutely correct. That's a bigger problem, That
was definitely one of those things where people were like, your minimum wage jobs shouldn't be less than unemployment. And then it's turned into this thing where people are like, I don't know if you heard that story about the Burger King, and I think it was Nebraska, where they all just quit at once.
Yeah.
And they're like, we all quit. Peace. And I think I'm hoping that this turns into a little bit like the Black Plague in the Dark Ages, where there was such a big upheaval that it led to a lot more workers' rights, and I think we're starting to see that a little bit. Where I think it's McDonald's is offering like $19 an hour, childcare and dental, and like a couple other things. I was like, you could have just done that from the beginning instead of freaking out. Nobody wants to work here.
Listen, this is what I find hilarious. Is a while ago, I was saying, I'm like, there is a chance that we are living in another Renaissance. Like this is so. Hear me out. is that the idea of people having time to have side projects and knowing the importance of side project or side hustle is to not only your own self-gratification, but your own mental health, we're seeing is huge, right? The benefits to having a side hustle for your emotional stability and your ability to be comfortable in your own skin and your own environment has shown to be a huge plus in statistics for people suffering during this time of quarantine and being at home. So in turn, it's like, okay, so that being so important, now you're going to see this challenge where it's like, I think about it this way. The guy who lays brick and builds buildings is going to be pissed at the guy who sculpts a fancy thing out of the same materials should get paid when he's like, well, I built somewhere for someone to live and you just made a sculpture, right?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing that, like, people are like, no, you shouldn't be able to stay at home and do your art, you know, like the idea behind universal income and stuff like that, where it's like, no, you shouldn't have the luxury of being able to be an artist. And you're like, well, yes, we should. Yeah. Everyone should have a some sort of expression in their own life that is theirs and theirs alone, right?
That was the thing that at my job where they hired this new girl right before they moved me. I talked about it on, I think, last week's episode or something.
Yeah.
And she was like, what do I do where I'm working this job and, like, it's enough to get by and everything, but it's just so soul-crushing? And I was like, the key to that is to, in your off time, do something you truly enjoy. A hobby, some kind of art form, a side hustle that, you know, it's like a fun job doing whatever it is you want to do. The goal is to work to live, not have this job consume you. And then to Sammy, not your real name, out there, I hope you took that advice to heart, because doing stuff like this and doing stand-up and playing card games is what allows me to not want to blow my office up.
Yeah. Well, okay, so this is I've been saying that same thing for a very long time, and people not understanding that it's like, listen, when people came back from war, all they wanted was to have a little bit of love and peace and quiet. That's all they wanted in life. Like, that was their ultimate goal, because they lived through war, right?
Yeah.
And now we're seeing that, well, that's not enough. We need more. So we're now realizing that that's not enough to just have that little bit of love and peace in our lives, right? That we want self-fulfillment. We want to achieve some sort of great aspect of ourselves that others can observe longer than us. It's that mentality of growth that spurs on economies, change, cultural revolution. These things are factors, and we're only realizing this now, right? And that's why it's a very different perspective that people. I kind of wish I had Nick's perspective now on this. Damn it, he didn't.
I know, right? Nick, get your ass together and get home on time next time, or at the very least. I wish he would have just told us that he was like, hey, I'm in traffic, I gotta...
I know. It's not like he's doing anything, he's just in traffic.
Yeah.
He could have just been like, hey guys, traffic's backed up, I don't know if I'm gonna make it.
Yeah, in which case, like, I would have had time to, like, get a guest host or something, and instead we found out, like, immediately before. So,
What a filthy prick.
Oh my god.
And after a cabin weekend, he's probably a filthy prick. Let's be honest.
In a literal sense, yes.
Yeah. No, because that's like, for you. Have you ever been of the mindset that you're like, oh, you know what? I'll do other random jobs and stuff here, or have you always been like, well, I want a job that covers my expenses and I'm okay, and then I can figure out what I want to do?
I think I would rather do that, but I know that there's, like, the archetype of like, I just waited tables for a while, and, like, I don't think I can do that. I can't do the, like, 60 odd jobs. I would rather have a job where I can goof off at work and do the other stuff. So, like, something where I'm left alone, like an office job. Yeah, which my job is very good at right now. So,
yeah. Well, there's that. You know what, it's one of those weird things where there are two goals. Like, if you do a bunch of random weird jobs where it's different every other week, there are a lot of crazy experiences that you in turn learn how to relay. Mm-hmm. Whereas when you are in a situation that's comfortable and convenient and consistent, you are actuating just the abstract perception of the mundane.
Yeah.
That influences what you relay. And I find it's very, very interesting on both sides, but I get it. I'm the same way where I'm like, no, I like consistency and doing the same things, and I like having order. Like, this is the time we're gonna do it. Okay, then that's the time we're gonna do it. I'm okay with that. So this whole recording on random days, and I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever you guys want.
I know. I'm sorry we haven't like nailed down a dedicated day.
It's okay. It's that's part of my growth, where I'm like, I have to be okay with this because it's not normal to not be okay with it.
Yeah. So. In theory, I'd want to do it the same day as my other show, just so I could like set aside the night to do it.
Yeah.
But we tried doing that once, and I was just like a pile of sludge during the other show, because I can't do one then the other immediately. I need some kind of palate cleanser or something.
No, that's fair. I understand that.
Yeah.
No, it's yeah. Well, that's the thing, is this isn't the same as that, right? Like, while it's the same media, it's not the same process. It's not the same.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah. And especially where like between the shows, where here I'm like supposed to be the mediator between you two when you guys are going at it, and then on the other show I'm the crazy one, and they're trying to like reel me in.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely like weird trying to go from one to the other. Like I used to have another podcast called Bad Reading, where the guy I started it with, he does impressions, so it was good for like reading these fan fictions, and he would do the voices of those characters. And he was the crazy one, and I would reel him in. And then he moved away, and I had to get another co-host. And that co-host wasn't a comedian; they were a writer. So then I became the crazy one, and they were trying to reel me in. So, just check out Bad Reading if you want. It didn't really have a very ceremonious ending. It just kind of fizzled out. But
you know what? That's okay. I think something else that we have to recognize is sometimes shit just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? That is totally okay. That is, like, I feel like there are too many hills people want to die on. They're like, no, I started this, I gotta keep doing it. And you're like, on one side you're like, hey, you know what? Consistency is key to growth and longevity. But at the same time, you're like, hey, it's not working. Just stop. Figure something else out.
I just like hear that stereotype of like most podcasts don't even last a year, and every white guy has a podcast, which I'm two of those now, I guess. But I just want to at least break the mold a little bit. Bad Reading made it over a year, so I can at least be proud of that.
Dude, my podcast only lasted like maybe like 5 months, 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was fun. We had a good time and everything, but like, because we started around now and ended around December, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, last year. And we ended up having 90 episodes. They're each an hour long. They're good conversations and stuff, and then it just stopped. And it was like, couldn't get restarted. And I'm like, it happens. That's, So, but that's the thing, is like, it's a lot of mental work to kind of figure out, like, what are we talking about? What side are we on? How are we trying to figure it out and stuff, right? So,
yeah.
It's tricky.
Which is what drives me crazy so much about those like iHeartRadio podcasts, where they're like, we have producers and editors and stuff, and I'm like, I want to kill you all. We have to like drag our stuff through the mud and try and make it into something.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, and people will talk for like 5 hours, and I'm like, yo,
too much.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Just split that into 5, and then there you go. That's the.
Well, that's the thing is like when you talk to somebody for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, you're like, that's a lot of material.
Yeah.
And the snippets from that are not going to be that big. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like there's going to be a few conversations in there that were really good, and then that's it. Right. But you can't, you're like, whereas if it's just an hour, you're like, all right, I'll just do it for an hour. It's a big
Mm-hmm.
deal. It's like watching an episode of a show. It's not, like 3 hours, you're like, fuck, man, it's so much.
Yeah. Uh, I I apologize for all the random burps, by the way, in the
I don't.
in
I
the
do
audio.
too.
Just someone doing the dishes. Why is he burping into the microphone? Just
Because I'm a dick.
cut them out. I can't remember. These are made like a month in advance, so it's gonna be something where I just forget, and then I'm trying to write down like timestamps where stuff goes wrong, but that's like so little that I can't
Who
tell.
cares?
And
You know what?
that's what
I just let it fly.
Let it
What are you
fly.
gonna do? Oh, you burped. Yeah, right into your ear. How'd you like it? It tastes all nasty? Who cares?
You ever burp and it comes out your nose? That's the worst.
Yes. Especially drinking, like, you're drinking a Coke in a glass bottle, which, by the way, is the best of the pops.
Oh,
like,
definitely.
That's,
Yeah.
like, hands down, like, glass bottle pop is, you have no idea.
It's because they use
Especially,
cane
like,
sugar, right? That's the kicker.
well, that's how I remember it. And, okay, so, by the way, do you remember how I did a bit about having to out crazy?
Yes.
Okay. So, this has led to me falling down a rabbit hole, and Coke is the subject, okay?
Okay.
Because, number one, did you know that the reason that Coca-Cola was attacked as being unhealthy was not because of the cocaine content, but because of the caffeine might be dangerous to children? What? Okay? Number one. Number two is that I was like, you know what? I was learning about New Coke and all that, how that kind of unfolded, and I was like, I don't think we ever got Coke back.
No, we didn't.
There was Coke, then New Coke, and then Coke Classic, and I'm like, I think Coke Classic is as close as they could get to original Coke and bring it back, because, and then I was like, hey, I wonder if this is actually a theory. The same day it came up on my YouTube feed was that the conspiracy about Coke, that it's like they changed the manufacturing process to no longer include cane sugar at that time and go to corn syrup and things of that nature, which are extremely unhealthy in massive amounts, which there are in there. And that's what actually happened. I'm like, holy crap, I'm a crazy person. This is insane. But yeah, and I'm like, but like back in the day, a glass bottle of Coke, oh, that was refreshing, and your burp always would come out of your nose.
Definitely. I'm trying to find, like, they have these in the gas station at the end of my block. So
Nice.
I try not to keep soda in my house, where if I want soda, I'm going to go out and get it.
That's a good way of doing things.
Yeah. So, and then I also try to do a thing where, like, for every soda I drink, you got to drink a glass of water to, like, balance it out or something. I don't know. I have this addiction. I'm trying to, like, work through it, and
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what? Well, and that's the thing is, you guys, yeah, your soda is better. Actually, we would drive to Florida when I was probably from around like 7 to like 14 years old. We would drive to Florida.
Yeah.
And one of the best things is we would go to Publix and get its A&W sparkling vanilla cream soda, and it is,
I know that,
so good. And we don't have it. We don't have it in Canada.
Shout out to my friend Root Beer for the A&W. Those are his initials. That's why we call him Root Beer.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, man, that's, yeah, I like, you guys have like crazy pops, and I dig it. Because here, like, we top out at like Dr. Pepper and like, yeah,
Dr. Pepper's my favorite soda, so
I really enjoy Dr. Pepper, but I find that I overdo it and then I don't want it for a while. Like, it's I indulge in it because it is an overwhelming flavor, and I love it. But I'm like, that A&W Root Beer, crushed cream soda, and Dr. Pepper are like my tribunal. Like, those are top tier. And
that
like
is the Holy Trinity.
Yeah,
Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
I showed your picture, by the way, to my wife, and told her what you look like and what you don't like, that you don't like it, because, right? And she was like, "Oh, he should not have told you guys that." I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
Oh, the syndrome thing.
You're talking in the Irish accent. I'm like, this is not gonna go well.
The worst part was like the first time I ever heard that, I was in college, and somebody literally runs up to me and goes, "Hey, has anyone told you that you look like?" God, he was in that Pixar movie, and I was like, which Pixar movie? He's like, the one with the superheroes. I'm like, he's leading me to it, right?
Oh, that's not nice.
Yeah,
that's not nice.
And then it just stuck after that. I'm like, great, thanks.
But hold on. Did you start? Were you funny back then? Because did you be like, Frozone? It's just like, that's what it looked like, right? It's like,
I said Elastigirl, so close. We're just like,
yeah, okay, that's fair. Okay, so you were funny in college. That's good to know. That's good to know. Listen, I would be the jackass who's like, Mr. Incredible, and they're like, no, definitely not. I'm like, oh, I tried.
It's weird being the like, you're a comedian, but are you the funny one in your group of friends? Because I'm not.
No, So I am fortunate enough to have friends that have their moments, but like I'm the one that gets on in a heater and just like starts popping them out and just boom, 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 where it's like joke after joke after joke after joke, and I just can't stop, right? So it's like in that fashion, like, but I'll get nabbed by my closest friends like a lot, and I'm like, I'm an idiot, like, you know, just like, especially I will pronounce, like, I'm good at public speaking. That's one of my skill sets. I've trained for many years at it, and I'm good at it, and I'm comfortable on stage, and that's one of the big things that, like, everyone, when I first started comedy, they're like, oh, you know, eye contact and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm good there, thanks. Right? Like, that was one of the big things.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, I'll say something with a lot of confidence, and I may not know how to pronounce it properly, and they will nab me every single time.
What, like, you'll just be like, yeah, so I was with the wife and we were making chicken fajitas, and just...
Well, so another friend, I got him with that. He said jalapenos, and I'm like, what? And he's like, damn it. And the thing is, we all listen to each other in that fashion. So it's like, when we screw up, we know when we've screwed up, but it was too late. It's already out there, and we will not miss it. Like, so my best friend, one of my best friends, really. So I've known him the longest. I've known him since I was 11 years old. And the thing is that we were at a party, and this guy walks in who I've met. I'm not close with him. I went to school with his wife. That's how I know this guy. But I've met him. Okay. I said his name, and he goes, "Nice to meet you." And I went, "What?" And then he just proceeded to move on and shake other people's hands. And I'm like, and my best friend, who was sitting about, say, 3 meters away, he was watching the whole thing, and he's looking at me in the eye, and he's like, he says hi to me, and he's like, "Hey man, what's up?" And he's like, "Oh hey, how's it going?" And he's like, "Okay." And he's looking at me, and I'm like, "Did that just happen?" He's like, "Yep." So this guy did this like 3 times. Like, every time I saw him, he'd be like, "Oh, nice to meet you." And I'm like, number one, I am a very memorable personality, and that shit will drive me crazy. But it will also, my friends will use that to torment me and be like, "You're not memorable." You bitches.
I'm not that kind of genetic marvel.
Yeah. It's like, like, we will, like, we always are very quick to pick up on what each other says. So if you say something like this, I am fortunate enough to never have been like, "All right, love you, bye," and hang up on them.
Yeah.
Like, because that would never die. So I have done that to one guy, and I was like, "All right, love you, bye." Oh, I can't believe it. Like, son of a bitch.
See, I would just lean into the skid. Like sometimes on a friend's birthday, I'll like Venmo them $5 or something, and then it'll just be like, "Love grandma," like shit like that, and just lean into it. The thing is, though, I'm not the funny one. My friend Robert is the funny one. He's he's this big black dude with an afro, and he just has the best timing. It drives me nuts. And it's just he consistently funny, and I'm like dropping stuff, and they're just like, "Dude, shut up." Just
okay. That's okay. How many times will you repeat something thinking that your friends haven't heard it, and you're like, "Oh no, it just bombed."
More than like, if that's probably one of my memento tattoos. That like, remember, don't repeat stuff.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will do the same bit on another time just to see if it was me. And they're like, it's still not funny. I'm like, I think it's funny. Fuck you guys.
The worst part is if you do it on like a different person that you were hanging out with from the same group of friends. They're like, yeah, they told me. It's still not funny. Like,
yeah, that's happened to me.
Shit.
They told me about that story. That's how it went. I'm like, shut up. It's funnier this way.
Yeah.
That's and that's the thing is I think that's real friendship though. Like when you can call your friends out that hard, and not like I have probably about 7 or 8 friends that I could be like, you know what, fuck you, I'll see you tomorrow. Like that's like it's and I'm like that's I think is a level that's real friendship.
Yeah.
That's because when people are butthurt, you're just like, I don't want to hang out with you, man.
Yeah.
Like,
I would love for that to be like in Latin above like a school exit. Fuck you, I'll see you tomorrow. And like that's on the exit as you're walking out to the front door.
That's you know what? I think more people would read if that was the slogan under libraries. Libraries. Fuck you, I'll see you tomorrow. And you're like,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, because that's like really, come on, studying, especially in school, it was like, I gotta study again tomorrow. You're like, fuck studying, I'll see you tomorrow. That's, if we are just honest about it, okay, this is gonna be the worst.
And speaking of that, fuck you, we'll see you next week. Where can they find you on social media, Dino?
Dino the Genetic Marvel. I have a Facebook page that is where most of my stuff gets posted because I'm doing a lot of podcasts, a lot of shows. So check out Dino the Genetic Marvel on. There'll be a link below somewhere?
I have links in the description, but it's mostly for
we're very technically savvy people. We know what we're doing. But yeah, just Google Dino the Genetic Marvel. One of those things will lead you to the right place. Subscribe to everything. Comment. Tell me if I look fat in pictures. Like, no problem. Please, I encourage it. I have too much confidence. I need to be brought down to a human level.
And then, tell a friend about the show or something, or follow us on Twitter.
It's the least you could do.
Yeah, at Generation Dan Pod, or you can find Nick, who's not here. Yeah. Fuck you, Nick. See you next week. Nick. Yeah, traffic. You can find him at on Instagram or I think Twitter or just Instagram at Nick Fernandez Comedy, and that's Fernandez with an S, not a Z. Or you can find me at Atlas Novak, Twitter or Instagram, or my other show at Nexus at Night, same places. So thanks everybody for listening. Don't tell your friends if you're gonna be late to shit. And
in advance. If you say it when the event is supposed to start, or they have to say, "Hey, where you at, guy?" You're a dick. Okay.
See you next time.